Hello, and welcome to the month of Spooky 2022. Scary stories are a part of life. We've been telling them since the dawn of man over campfires, radio broadcasts, television, and these days, social media. They remind us of our own mortality, get our adrenaline going, and send chills through our bodies that, well, we just can't explain. During this month, you can expect the unexpected, hear the unbelievable, and witness stories that will stretch your imagination. Why? Because that is what we do here at Ron's Amazing Stories. So settle in for the spooky and be prepared to be taken away from today.
Another 5-minute mystery.
This 5-minute mystery is being brought to you by the Month of Spooky and the classic radio series, Quiet Please.
Okay, that means...
No. The FFM will not be spooky.
Then why play it?
Well, that's a very good question, and it has no simple answer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Vincent Caraway, your mystery storyteller, inviting you back again for another tale of mystery and murder.
Oh, turn that thing off. Give me the shovel, so. I don't see why I listen.
It isn't every woman who can flip a dial and hear her husband's voice.
But I don't know where Vince got the idea for those horrid stories. It's so depressing, it's making a nervous wreck out of me.
Darling, you are in a state. What is it?
I could have sworn I heard footsteps in the hallway.
Oh, no, Joanna, this is preposterous. You mustn't let this get you.
The lights! They've gone out!
There is someone. There's someone right outside the door. Joanna! Joanna! Good heavens, she's dead!
Now, Miss Warren, if you'll just calm down and tell me exactly what you can.
There's nothing left to tell except what you already know. Hilda called you on the maid's phone, and then I called Mr. Caraway at the radio station from in here.
Weren't you on the air, Mr. Caraway, at the time of the murder?
Yes, I was just about finishing my show. I heard the phone ring to the studio and caught it just in time. I got here as quickly as I could. It's only a short distance.
Poor Mrs. Caraway. Thank heaven she died without ever knowing.
Knowing what?
But her best friend was trying to get her husband, that's what.
Hilda!
You needn't Hilda me in that tone of voice, Miss Warren.
Phyllis, you did.
Kill Joanna, are you crazy? Don't be such a conceited fool, Vincent. No man is worth murder. Not even you.
So you were in love with Mr. Caraway, Mrs. Warren.
So what? I might have wished her dead, but I didn't kill her.
Mr. Caraway, you said you heard the phone from the studio and just got to the phone in time. Wasn't there anyone else to answer it?
At this time of night, there is no one else at the station except myself and the engineer, and he, of course, is in the control booth on the next floor.
I thought the engineers worked right off the studio.
They usually do. However, I work for my own private studio just off my office. It's perfectly soundproof for broadcasting.
Very considerate of your employers, I must say.
Yes, it is. Of course, everyone isn't entitled to such privileges.
Nor does anyone have such a good opportunity for murder.
Murder? What are you talking about?
Just this, Mr. Caraway. I'm arresting you for the murder of your wife.
Why did the inspector accuse Vincent Caraway of the murder of his wife? In just a moment we'll hear, but first...
Okay, Ron, that was not a bad story at all. And I think I know how he did it.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of the term remote viewing?
Are you suggesting that he killed his wife psychically?
I am.
Was that a thing in the 1940s?
I think the first recorded incident was in 1970.
Okay.
Might not be right then.
Probably not. How about this? The butler did it.
Oh, did they have a butler?
I don't think so.
And now, back to our story.
I was broadcasting over the air a mile away when my wife was shot. Thousands who heard my show can testify to that.
Yes, thousands can testify they heard the voice of Vincent Caraway, but not the man. Because at the exact time you were lulling thousands to sleep by means of a record you'd made earlier,
You raced to this house, stole in on your unsuspecting wife, shot her, and raced back to the studio in time to remove the record when it reached its end. Not even the engineer could see that it wasn't you before the microphone. You claimed to have heard the phone ring while you were still in the studio. But studios are entirely soundproof, Mr. Carraway. You couldn't possibly have heard that phone ringing in the next office.
Sylvia!
What?
By all that's good and holy, that solution makes sense. And it's even plausible.
Doesn't that happen all the time?
Not only no, but heck no.
Why do you play these things again?
It is the RAS signature segment.
You might want to rethink that.
And disappoint the fans?
What's that you say?
Hello, and welcome to the podcast. On the show, we are going to fulfill our Halloween tradition with the story, The Thing on the Fourble Board. Sylvia Schultz is here, and she is going to join me for this, and we're going to do something, well, you're just going to have to hang around and see what we do. Sylvia, are you ready for this?
I am, Ron.
Are you excited to hear this story again? I know it's one of your favorites. It's a great bedtime story for you, I think.
You could say that, sure.
Sure. Yeah, well, and I've heard you talk about this story for years and years and years now. It is by far your go-to story, I think.
It definitely struck a chord with me the first time I heard it.
Yeah, well, was it the cat voices or the pork chops?
It was definitely the voices. Yeah. Oh, just thinking about it gives me the shivers.
All right, well, what do you say we just get to the show then, and so we can find out how all this is going to work out?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, before we get to that thing up there on that Fourble board, here is this week's spooky audiobook. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Audible has sponsored the show now since July of 2019. We have reviewed more than 140 audiobooks, and the list keeps growing. Did you know that Audible has over 200,000 books available? And a lot of those are included in the free catalog. Audible is amazing, and it is the perfect companion to Ron's Amazing Stories. If you like this podcast, you're going to love Audible. So what am I listening to? Ghosts, Goblins, Murder, and Madness. 20 Tales of Halloween, edited by Rebecca Rowland, narrated by Kyle Walton. Now you might be asking, what? Another anthology of scary stories? Yeah, but not really. There are some of the most frightening tales I've ever heard. They go places few would tread and even fewer have taken. Here's the promo from the book. It is from a story titled Alone on Halloween.
I can't breathe. My chest feels tight, like someone or something is sitting on it. Everything is so dark, I don't know where I am. Finally, I draw in a ragged breath and gag. The air smells of rot, and I can taste it on my tongue. It's foul. I can barely stretch my arms out in front of myself. I feel like a trapped T-Rex with miniature arms. I quickly scold myself. Now, Nina, This is not the time to be flippant or crack jokes. You have no idea where you are. Feeling just above me, my fingers make contact with something soft, almost velvety, but it's hard. I can't move my arms to see if the hardness covers my whole body, but a jerk of my foot tells me that it probably does. As much as I don't want to, I take another deep breath because I need to survive. I need to figure out where the hell I am and how I got here. My head aches. In complete blackness, I start scratching at the velvety stuff, trying to pull at it. What was I doing before this? What's the last thing I remember? I lay there in the darkness and try to think, but everything is so fuzzy. I remember wine and music. There was dancing, too, I think. Was I at a party? I can't think. Something's not right. I'm not right. My skin feels too tight, and my head feels like someone is hammering away inside my skull. I can't stay here. I don't even know where here is. I remember him. He's on the periphery of my memory, holding out a hand. Did we dance together? I think it was a Halloween ball. New Orleans. I remember the flicker of candles from inside a twisted pumpkin face. I know him. I know him. He was handsome. I feel admiration when I try to think of him. He looked smart in that navy suit of his, with wide shoulders and a strong body. But when I try to recall his face, all I see is a blur. Cinnamon. He smelled like cinnamon. It was a strong scent, masking something else. A chemical fragrance. It lingers here even now. It smells like bleach. Fear. I was afraid of something. He drew me in with his looks and his charm, but then I was frightened. I can't think clearly. My head hurts so bad it feels like my brain has been scrambled with a whisk. With a tearing noise that fills the small space, I manage to rip away the fabric. I clutch at it for a moment. What happened to me?
Ghosts, Goblins, Murder, and Madness feature 20 stories hailing from 5 different countries and 10 states. One of them is certain to strike a chord with any horror aficionado. Devil's Night, Day of the Dead, and Halloween have been celebrated around the world in one form or another, beginning with the ancient Celts more than 2,000 years ago. For some revelers, it's a time for guising or dressing up in elaborate costumes. For others, it's time for practical jokes and mischief. For some, it's a reverent occasion to acknowledge the thin line between earth and the spirit world. In this same vein, the stories in this collection provide a wide-angle lens at what compromises the unique expanse of horror fiction today. From hobgoblins and apparitions, to haunted dwellings and cursed possessions, to good intentions gone awry and evil ones turned on the perpetrator. These 20 tales will unsettle, frighten, tickle, caution, and in the end, listeners may take heed before ever going again to accompany their children trick-or-treating. Here are just a few of the story titles you're gonna hear. Asking for It, The Boatman's Rhyme, Dear Dead Jenny, The Hermit of Singer's Creek, and many, many more. Now, if that appeals to you, head to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories, and you can have Ghosts, Goblins, Murder, and Madness for free. Here's what Audible has set up for us. They are offering a free audiobook and 30 days to give you the opportunity to check out their service. This also grants you access to the included catalog, which is updated constantly with new titles. So, to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. Thank you, Audible. And now, it's time for more of your spooky stories.
These are your stories, sent by you, for you.
Our first story was sent in by Janice Brendable, who lives in Bellingham, Washington. This is not Janice's first story. She sent one in titled, "How do you spell that again?" in for episode number 520. She was also a winner of a contest we had a few years ago. Her new story is titled, "A Hospital Story." This happened during the pandemic. I thought about the patients in the hospital who couldn't have friends or family visit. If I got a job at the hospital, I could visit them. So I did. I delivered meals to patients. I was new and one day got lost. I was at a place where I could head in any direction, but where the heck was I? A woman was walking down the hall. She was wearing a dress and heels and looked so professional, so I thought I would ask her for help. She walked down the hall and into the wall right in front of me and disappeared. Oh, and by the way, I was still lost. Janice Brendable, Bellingham, Washington. That is a head-scratcher. I'm not sure I would have handled that as well as you did. Thank you for sharing your story. This next story comes from Alma Reese. Alma didn't say where she was from, but did title her story The Dibbuk Box. So 2 Halloweens ago, I did something kind of dumb. Let me start at the beginning. I started working at a local pizza shop in my hometown. After a few days, I became really good friends with the early morning janitress for the bar next door. She was really cool and dark, very mysterious. Along with her, I made friends with one of the cooks, and we all started hanging out almost every weekend at her house. Now, I was not expecting what I walked into. Her house was like one of those pop-up Halloween party stores. She had many odd collections, stones, dead flowers, herbs, and many books on witches and black magic. Her prized possession was a real human skull she got off a crackhead many years prior. Needless to say, it took some warming up to get used to her house. Although it was spooky, somehow it was still very much inviting. Cut to Halloween 2020, and it was a full moon. This was the only holiday my friend ever celebrated. So, we went big. By this time, the cook we had made friends with had become absolutely insufferable to be around. So we hatched an idea to scare the absolute vinegar out of him. Editor's note, not Alma's actual words here. The plan? My friend and her daughter and I sat down to talk about what we wanted to do. I mentioned how full the moon was, so how about we go to the oldest cemetery near us at midnight and do some EVPs and stuff? They said, absolutely. Now, I'll just name my friend T. T is very much into magic. She wanted to take her witch's bell and open a portal. I really didn't believe her, but I went with it. Her daughter chimed in with the brilliant idea to construct a mock Dybbuk box. And when we'd get there, we'd smash it on the ground and start acting up to scare the cook. We should have known better. Well, I should have anyway. Editor's note. The Dibbuk box is a wine cabinet claimed to be haunted by a Dybbuk, a concept from Jewish mythology. Halloween night. We were a bit late getting out the door, but at about 11:30 that night we left T's place. The cook drove and I sat shotgun. T and her daughter were in the back, her daughter with the Dibbuk box in hand. She had told him that she had ordered it off of eBay. T had done an amazing job making it look absolutely authentic. So we drove and didn't think much about the box. I had brought my EVP recorder and EMF detector with us. I set the EMF detector in the door cubby as we drove and had turned it off. All of a sudden, T's daughter giggled and shook the Dibbuk box. Out of nowhere, my EMF meter started to sound off and beep. It wasn't on. We all went silent, and the whole mood shifted. We got to the cemetery and all nervously got out of the car. The whole area was glowing. The leaves glistened in the moonlight, and the tombstones were almost ethereal with glow from the moon reflecting off the granite. The skies were clear, and all alone we made our way to the back part of the cemetery. It was so beyond silent out there. We found a good spot, and T said, "Okay, everyone, sit in a circle." She then opens a container and pours her sacred salt mix around us and warns us not to leave for any reason until we're all done. At this point, I'm ready to go home. I glanced at the cook, and he already looked terrified. So we all sit. T puts the box in the middle of us and puts the EMF and EVP recorder next to it. Her daughter started a spirit box app on her phone, and the sounds that came out of it silenced us. And then the EMF went nuts. Suddenly I got this gut-sinking feeling I wasn't alone with them anymore, and we were in serious trouble. Silence falls over us, and we all kind of stare at each other. Now me, T, and her daughter had not planned on this box being actually real, but somehow she had managed to catch some kind of entity inside it. Then we were all snapped from our trance, and we realized we heard steps coming from the woods around us. We could clearly see that no one was there. I closed my eyes and grabbed T's hand and said, "Okay, I'm officially scared. What do we do?" She said, "It's fine. Ghosts aren't real." I said some words that I can't repeat here and added, "You and I both know that's a lie." As I said that, the cook stands up and says he really thinks we need to get the heck out of here. The sounds around us grow louder, and there are invisible people all around us. We could feel them. At this point, the cook kicks the circle open and starts walking to the car. T's daughter smashes the box, saying, "Screw it, let's go," and T and I frantically follow. When us girls got home, we knew we had messed up. We didn't close the door we had opened and actually had caught something in that box. Also, we might have let it out into that graveyard. None of us have ever gone back to check. I've always believed in the paranormal, but now I'm much more careful about how I go about it. Alma Reese from Parts Unknown. That is one heck of a story, and it comes with a warning. We should always treat that which we don't understand with respect. Thank you, Alma, for your story. Well, that's it for this time. If you have a story that you want to share like Alma did, head to the main website at ronsamazingstories.com. Click on the story submission banner, leave your story, give it a title, and please tell me where you're from. I'll read it if I can. Our featured story is one of the most highly regarded episodes of the radio series, Quiet Please. It is called The Thing on the Fourble Board. This story has led both fans and OTR experts to label it one of the best radio horror programs ever broadcast. Others have noted that it's not only a fine example of radio horror, but one of the best examples of radio drama as a whole. That is pretty high praise. We have played this story every year at Halloween. I've had people tell me that they look forward to it every year, and others said, hey, I can live without it. The bottom line is that for me, what is the spooky season without those famous Porky's pork chops? I knew this year that we had to do something different, and that is what we're going to do. This is the huge experiment. Are you familiar with MST3K? Mystery Science Theater 3000 is a comedy film review television series created by Joel Hodgson. The show premiered on KTMA TV in Minneapolis, Minnesota on November 24, 1988. It then moved to Comedy Central for 7 seasons until its cancellation in 1996. Thereafter, it was picked up by the Sci-Fi Channel and aired for 3 more seasons until 1999. In 2015, Hodgson led a crowd-funded revival of the series with 14 episodes in its 11th season, with another 6-episode season following in 2018. A second successful crowdfunding effort in 2021 brought it back again, shown through the Gizmoplex, which is an online platform that Hodgson developed for MST3K. It was launched in March of 2022. As of 2022, 218 episodes and a feature film have been produced, as well as 3 live tours. The premise of the show, if you haven't seen it, is simple. They take old sci-fi B films and watch them. While the story plays out, they make some snarky comments that keep up the interest in the badly made film, and unless you're dead, make you laugh while doing it. So how can we do this? No one has kidnapped us, and there are no aliens forcing us to listen. However, what I did do was talk to our resident author, librarian, and ghost hunter into joining me on this endeavor. And we'll see where all this goes. I have no idea if it's even going to work. What do you think, Sylvia? Is this a fool's errand?
Oh, no, I think it'll be fun.
Do you have any
Did you
idea?
bring popcorn?
Yeah, well, I have my popcorn.
Awesome.
I don't know if you have yours. I mean, we're literally thousands of miles apart.
Well, I do have popcorn. I have Twizzlers, too. Can't watch a movie without Twizzlers.
Okay. Well, I was thinking that I was going to have whiskey, but then I thought that might make it too funny. Anyway, I don't know where this is going to go, and I'm guessing you don't either. So we're just going to fly by the seat of our pants here and listen to this thing and see how it works out.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, the Thing on the Fourble Board begins in a secluded oil field and is narrated by Porky the Oil Man. It first aired on August 9th, 1948.
Quiet, please.
Pretty sardonic music, if you ask me.
Ooh, yes, very atmospheric. Sets the mood.
I don't know if it sets the mood or sets me to thinking,
Hey, now.
All right, well, here they're going to say something now.
The Mutual Broadcasting System presents Quiet Please, which is written and directed by Willis Cooper and which features Ernest Chappell. Quiet Please for tonight is called The Thing on the Fourble Board.
I think we're in for it now.
The ride started.
Me, I'm a roughneck. Well, I was a roughneck, 20 years ago. A little too old, too slow now. Besides, I got $1 now. I don't have to be a roughneck, you see. Married, got a nice home. Had to meet my wife. Hey, Mike. Her name's Maxine, but she likes to be called Mike. Mike!
I wonder if that's a foreshadow.
I guess she's busy out in the kitchen someplace. Besides, she doesn't hear very well. Shame, too, she's so pretty and
I
everything.
know that's a foreshadow.
Well, you'll meet her. Sit down.
We want to meet Mike.
I was saying I was a roughneck. Well, no, that doesn't mean exactly what you think it means. A roughneck is an oil field worker, specifically a guy in a drilling crew.
How does
Call
he
a
know what I
roughneck
think
like
it
you
means?
call a section hand on the railroad a gandy dancer, a garage hand a grease monkey.
Do they still call them
Same time
grease
you work
monkeys?
around a drilling crew for a while, you're going to be a
I don't
roughneck
think
in
so.
every sense of the word, boy. A derrick floor or a fourble board's no place for a guy with a bow tie. Because when you have to fool
Orville
around with
Redenbacher?
drilling holes that go farther down the ground than it is from the top of Pike's Peak down to sea level, sure they do. The time I was a roughneck, we got this one well down to 7,313 feet. That was a record. But last
In
May, Pure
1940.
Oil brought one in out in the Natrona Valley in Wyoming at 14,309 feet. That, friend, is almost 3 miles. Quite a hole, that, huh?
Jeez.
Sure, I don't think there's an oil man in the world that don't wonder
Here
one
comes the
time or
creepy
another
music.
what's down there, besides rock and oil and gas. Oil that's made out of trees that died 20 million years ago. Oil that's
And
made
dead
out of
dinosaurs.
dinosaur bones. Oil that's maybe made out of the flesh and blood of men, maybe, that beat each other to death with a stone axe, ate saber-toothed tiger for lunch.
That's a nice thought.
Yum.
Yeah, you get to wondering. You look at the cores that come up from way down there, and sometimes the little shells, trilobites mostly, that was alive when Manhattan Island, where New York is, was under half a mile of ice. We found something once, me and Billy Grunwald, and something found us.
Oh, boy.
I'll tell you about it.
Tell us
We were down to
about
around 5,400 feet. We'd set casing. We began to get water, so we had to stop drilling and cement off. Well, you see, when water begins to seep in the hole, you pull your drill pipe, then you let down a cementing shoe inside the casing, and you plug up the bottom of the hole, casing and all, with quick hardening waterproof cement.
Sounds reasonable.
Then when it's hard, you drill through the cement, go on down, and the cement outside the casing at the bottom keeps the water out. Well, we had the drill pipe all pulled and cracked. The cement was setting, see? So we was shut down, waiting for it to harden. We'd been coring just before.
What's coring?
Well, you see, a core drill is hollow. And as the bit digs down, it stuffs the drillings up inside it, so when you pull it out, you got a sample of the kind of stuff you're going through. And a geologist can tell a lot from that. So there's nobody around the rig except me that night. The rest of the crew's going into town. I was toasting some pork chops over the porch for my supper. I heard a car pulling up.
pork chops.
Yeah, I got to stop it right there. If you listen carefully, you can hear the pork chops. You can hear them just cooking away in their juices.
Sizzly.
Oh, I love a good pork chop. All right, let's continue. You ready?
Yeah.
Look out, it's Billy Grunwald, the geologist, and I give him a hello. Hi, Billy, come and have a pork chop.
Hi, Porky.
Porky's his name.
Where's everybody?
Yeah, all went to town. I'm the whole crew.
You know, I had 3 blowouts between here and Oxnard.
Yeah, I wondered where you was. Ted said you'd be in here about 3.
Yeah, I would have been, except for my tough
I
luck.
wonder what blowouts meant in
Oh,
1940.
I'm dead.
Yeah, hungry?
Probably
Starved.
exploded
Yeah, I got
tire.
7 pork chops. And bread. And some coffee, kind of.
Swell. Yeah, I got a bottle in the car.
We're going to have a banquet.
Hey, where's that core? That's what I came up here to look at.
Yeah, back there on the bench. Look at it after supper.
Hey,
No, just leave it laying around.
What?
didn't you say you were all alone here?
Uh-huh.
I thought I heard somebody talking.
I don't see anybody. If you keep an eye on that pork chop, you won't have any supper.
Yeah, I'm watching it.
Yeah, let me put the coffee on. Like so.
Did you hear the sound of the coffee?
When'd you finish cementing?
This morning, last tower only made about 10 feet of holes, so Ted shut down before we get flooded out of house and home.
Funny about that water.
How?
Oughtn't to be any at that level, according to my figuring.
Well, there is.
Is it salt?
Sure, right out of the bottom of the ocean.
Well, what makes you the expert? Oh,
Well,
okay. I guess
maybe
he
I'll
was
be
an
able to tell something from the core. Yeah, I hope so. Well, last core I looked at, I'd have sworn we were getting into shale.
Ain't seen none yet.
Did he
From
say
the
hail?
cuttings.
That's funny.
Something like that.
Here, your pork chop stub.
Ah, the pork chop again.
Yeah, take some bread.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, hear him eating it? You can just feel it.
Oh, man.
The
Good,
fork and
huh?
knife on the plate.
Yeah, put on another. I had 2 already before you come.
That's
Yeah,
a lot of
right.
pork chops.
That is an awful lot of pork chops.
You know, you never can tell what's down there. You get it all mapped and plotted out, all the straighter. And all you know is what comes out of the hole.
That's so true.
Yeah, I'd like to go down there sometime if I was little enough.
I wouldn't.
Never get you down a hole.
No, thank
You'd
you.
fit. You're skinny.
I'll stay up here and look at the cores, bud.
You know, from that I can say
And
that
eat pork
maybe,
chops.
yeah, you know what I think is that Porky may not be a thin guy from that statement.
Ooh, good point.
Yeah, I just thought I'd make that point.
Where is that one?
Behind you. Over there.
Oh. Well, I'll have a look at it.
Made you look.
Why don't you wait till you finish your supper?
I'm just going to look at it.
Put on another pork chop for
These
me.
guys are eating a lot of pork chops.
These guys know
we're doing
pork
street
chops.
jobs.
Dang.
What's the matter?
Hey, wait a minute, Porky.
Well, why did...
Listen.
Missing?
What's eating you?
You know, I'd have sworn there's somebody up there in that Fourble Board.
Ah, you're crazy. There's nobody up there.
Getting against those stands of drill pipe.
Ah, they're just rack crooked. One of them slipped. Come on back and eat your pork chop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good grief. You got so many of
Don't
them.
let these pork chops go to waste.
Only
You got 7 of
What
them.
you so jittery about, Billy? Come on, eat your sandwich. Here.
Yeah, well, thanks, Porky. I don't know. I'm just naturally that way, I guess. I'm always scared of the dark. Doggone it, I hate to be a baby, but I can't help it.
Scared of the dark?
Hey, it happens to the best of us.
I'm scared of the dark.
Oh, I don't know. Everybody's scared of something. Me. Spiders scare the tar out of me.
Oh, that's a good thing to be scared of.
Oh. I know how you feel, Billy.
There another light over here?
Yeah. Here.
Ah. Oh. That's better. Hey, listen, Porky. Go out to the car and look in the left-hand door pocket and bring back that bottle, will you?
Yeah.
That's what I need.
Okay, kid. Okay.
Now we're talking.
So I picked up a flashlight. I turned around and went outside. I found a car. And I got the bottle. And the floor of the derrick was all lit up, and when I saw a beam of light suddenly flash up toward the Fourble Board...
What's a Fourble
I
Board?
laughed. Billy Grunwald and his ideas. Sure, I looked up.
I bet
There
they'll
wasn't a
tell
darn
us.
thing up there, except the drill pipe racked against the fingerboard. Oh, this Fourble
Yeah,
Board.
here he goes.
Well, you've seen oil derricks or pictures of them?
Sure.
You know that little platform that runs around the outside of the derrick about halfway
Oh, yeah,
up?
I've seen that.
Well, that's the Fourble Board.
Oh.
You see, drill pipe comes in lengths, and you handle them with several lengths screwed together so as to save time getting them in and out of the hole. 2 lengths is a double, 3 is a triple, 4 is a Fourble.
Makes total sense.
When you pull a pipe, you heist it up inside the derrick with a traveling block, which moves up and down from the crown block at the top of the derrick. And then when a Fourble of pipe is pulled out, it's held in the rotary table. You break the joint with tongs, like a great big Stilton wrench, you see.
No,
Snub a
I
cable
don't.
that's fastened to the handle over the cathead on the drawworks, and that breaks the joint. Then you hold the tongs on the pipe, give the rotary table a few turns to unscrew it. You heist away with the traveling block and swing it over against the fingerboard, lean it against the
If you
derrick.
say so.
The guy up on the Fourble board takes off the traveling block. You do it all over again till you got all the pipe out,
Oh,
you see?
sure.
Why not?
Well, there wasn't anybody up on the Fourble board except a screech owl, and it flew away.
Well, good on him.
So
Bye-bye.
Billy turned his light off, and I come on inside.
What's
And
the
just
bottle?
as I come up the steps, he let out a yell.
Yike!
What's the matter?
Yike!
What's the matter, Billy?
Hey, come here. Look here.
Boy, I sure hope they don't find a
Well,
ring
what's
in
it?
a
Look,
dismembered finger.
Mine.
That would be so creepy.
Where did you find that?
Now, listen, Porky, I give you my word. That was embedded in the core.
Why, it couldn't be.
I tell you it was. Look where I dug it up.
Couldn't be.
Hey, you know what? That rock there comes from a mile underground. And it's been a mile underground for 1,000,000 years. And look at this.
And I did look. And what he was holding was a gold
was it?
ring.
Oh.
And it was all carved and filigreed just like jewelry. And there wasn't any kidding about it. It was real.
Creepy.
Can we stop this right here, right now?
No, wait a minute. Hang on, I ain't
Oh,
done.
boy, we're not stopping.
I poked
No,
at the core
no,
of
we're
rock
in for
that
the
looked
ride.
like a kind of petrified salami or something.
Ew.
And then it was my turn to pretty near jump out of my pants.
Well, don't do that.
Because right alongside the place where Billy dug out the ring,
There's an image.
there was a mud-covered, but very unmistakable finger.
I didn't. I was guessing. I didn't know.
And it was cold. And it was heavy. And it was solid rock.
How did it get
At least
there?
it felt like solid rock.
Dun, dun, dun.
And I looked at Billy, and Billy looked at me. He started to rub the mud off this here stone finger. And as he rubbed it, it begun to disappear. No, he could still feel it, he said, but when the mud was gone, neither one of us could see
Oh,
it.
boy.
It was
We
invisible.
dropped it to the derrick floor. It went clunk, and we couldn't find it anyplace.
I hope they don't drink that bottle.
Man,
So you know what we done?
what
Well,
did they
we
do?
took that bottle and we took and finished it brilliantly. We finished it in one slug apiece, and it was a full pint of bathtub gin. It tasted just like so much well water to me.
So not
Must
only
not have been very good gin.
bathtub gin, though.
And then we sat down on the derrick floor and we looked at each other. We didn't say a word. My eyes got heavier and heavier. The last thing I remember was I heard some kind of noise that seemed to be coming up from the fourble board 80 feet above us.
It's all that
I
gin.
shut my eyes a minute. I guess I went to sleep.
Creepy organ. That always means something.
Well, it's tense music. You know something's happening.
And I had awful dreams.
Oh, I bet.
Black widow, spiders crawling all over me with gold rings on their legs. Things I could hear, but I couldn't see. Up on the fourble board. Billy Grunwald climbing up the ladder outside the derrick in the moonlight.
Why would he do that?
Faces looking at me, and
I don't know.
I couldn't figure out who they were. Then I was waked up by a horrible scream. A crash alongside me that shook the whole derrick.
Oh, no.
I opened my eyes to see Billy Grunwald lying on the floor 2 feet away with a broken neck.
I'm out of here.
With a broken neck and his left hand. Well, he put the gold ring on the little finger of his left hand, and
That was a
the way
mistake.
his arms were spread out,
Why would he do
his
that?
left little finger and the ring were gone.
I'm done.
Well, friend, I got out of there. I run down to where Billy had left his car, and I got in. I stepped on the starter. And I couldn't get it to go, and then I remembered after I pretty near run down the battery that Billy had taken the key. I wasn't going up there and go through a dead man's clothes to get it. So I sat there in the car and shivered all by myself till daylight.
Yeah, pierce us with the organ music.
Well, he's shivering.
And then
It's
Ted
got
and
to
the
be
crew
organ
came.
music.
Afterwards, a state cop and everybody in the world was asking me questions.
Did you and Billy have a fight, Porky?
I told you we didn't, Ted.
But you had been drinking.
We only had that little pint, Ted.
Well, what was he doing up on the fourble board? Did you threaten him, and did he run up there to get away from
Listen,
you?
cop, don't be a chump. Billy Grunwald and I were good friends.
Then why'd you push him off the fourble
Yeah.
board?
I didn't, I tell you. I wasn't up there.
Oh, what did he go up there
Porky.
for?
I don't know. I was asleep.
How do you know he was up there?
I didn't say he was. You said so.
That's true.
Besides, how would he break his neck if he didn't fall from way up there?
Well, look, officer. I think it was
Makes
just
sense.
another accident. I mean, we haven't got anything on Porky, and personally, I don't believe he did it.
Well, it's mighty mysterious.
So it is. But we got work to do. Now, how about it? That cement's hard down there, and I want to start drilling again, and I'm short-handed. Will you let Porky stay here till I run in my pipe again?
You're going to make him
Well,
work?
then you can take him and ask him questions till you're blue in the face.
Where's OSHA when you need him?
Okay. Let's
Well,
get
they weren't
rolling.
invented quite
You
then.
got Steve up happy? I'm all set. All right. Porky, you go from the fourble board.
What? Not me, Ted.
Oh, don't be such a boob. There's nobody up there to shove you overboard. And you can put a safety line around you if you want to. And besides, you're getting paid to do what you're told.
Yes.
I've lost too much time already. Come on, get going.
You can use the safety line if you want.
Like
I mean,
said.
nobody's making you.
So, okay, I go up on the fourble board. And you can bet I took a good gander around before I did anything else. Now I couldn't see a thing.
No.
So I
Well, 'cause
signaled to
it's
the driller to
invisible.
let down the traveling
We already
block, and he
determined
did.
that, I thought.
Came sailing down from up above. I was just reaching for it to pick up the first fourble of drill pipe. Gave a big jerk and the cable broke. It dropped and nearly pulled me off the fourble board.
Oh, no.
And it landed right on top of Ted.
Oh, not Ted.
Thump.
And if you have any idea what a guy looks like,
I
every 2
liked
tons of metal
Ted.
land on him from 80 feet up.
Splat.
Yeah, you keep your ideas to yourself.
Yeah, maybe so.
Squish.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, that was enough. 2 accidents in a row. The whole crew quit. They wasn't going to wait for a third.
Yeah.
And it was Ted's money that was paying off. There wasn't any more, and as far as I know, the abandoned derrick is still there.
Now Ted's a lot
And
skinnier.
that was 20 years
A
ago.
lot shorter.
Oh, I forgot to tell you something.
What'd you forget to tell us?
That traveling block was right in front of my face when it broke loose. It was hanging by steel cable, 3/4-inch steel cable. And I saw that cable break right before my eyes. It looked just like a piece of string when you snap it between your fingers.
You know, I've never been able to do that. Snap string between
Man, me neither. I mean...
You know what?
Thread, maybe.
Rubber band, sure.
There was something up there on the Fourble board with me.
There was?
And so a couple of days later I came back. I don't know if there's anything in the world as desolate, as dismal, as dead-looking as an abandoned oil well rig. There it stands like a skeleton off on a deserted side road and the bare yellow hills surrounding it. And
wait a minute.
A way to cheer the place up.
He came back? I wouldn't have come back.
It's the deadest thing you ever saw. I sat in my car for a long time looking at it. Everything was just the way we'd left it. I looked in at the floor. The smashed traveling block was there alongside the rotary table. There was a...
Did they clean Ted up?
Of steam from the boiler. That was all.
Deja vu.
Then I heard a tinkle of something as it hit the ground alongside me. I looked around. There wasn't a soul in sight. But at my feet was the gold ring that Billy Grunwald and I found in a core of rock that came from a mile underground and from 1,000,000 years ago in time.
Okay, how does he know it's 1,000,000 years? What if it were like 10 minutes ago?
I think it's something to do with a core.
And I heard a little sound.
Oh.
The sound of a kid crying.
Oh, here it comes,
There wasn't
Sylvia.
any kid up there. And I heard it again, and it came from above my head, and I took out my revolver. I loaded it carefully. I started up the ladder to the Fourble board. No, there wasn't anything up there, nothing I could see.
Notice that he could see.
A voice crying. The voice of a little kid.
Oh, that's creepy.
And then there was a movement behind the rack of drill pipes, and I saw the pipe move, and I yelled, "Come out of there, whoever you are!
Make it stop!
Come out or I'll start shooting!" And the stand of pipe shivered, and I thought, what can it be that can handle that heavy pipe like jack straws? And then there was a crash.
Yes, there was. Substantial.
The whole stand of pipe fell over, and I just got out of the way in time. And I was alone on the Fourble board.
I don't think so.
With the thing.
Probably not.
But I couldn't see it. I felt the platform tremble under my feet again as something moved toward me. I fired 2 or 3 shots.
That was 3.
And nothing happened. I started backwards. I knew it was following me because I could hear it meowing like a cat. My feet tripped over something. I saw it was a big can of red lead that somebody had left up there. Without thinking, I picked it up and I threw it at the sound and it splashed.
Okay.
That's what a splash sounds like?
Doesn't it sound like that in your world?
And I wish I
don't own a piano.
I wish... The face of a little girl.
Oh, please, not a little girl.
With hunger and terror. Hands like a human being, and a finger missing from the left hand. And a body. Well, I'll tell you about that. I told you how I'm scared of spiders.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, we heard.
But I knew where it came from. It had come from the bowels of the earth, come riding up on the drill pipe as we yanked it out of the well.
Yeah.
Come to an alien world, and was lost. It stood there dripping with red paint, blood red.
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Like some horrible dream.
Not as much as Ted, though.
No, Ted didn't do well.
On my arm. Its hand was stone. Living, moving stone.
Well, you'd have to, being underground and all.
And it looked into my eyes.
You'd think.
And mewed like a lost kitten.
Oh.
"20 years ago, I discovered many things about it, what it used for food, that it was deaf, that it was invisible and couldn't see people.
He's calling it invisible. It now?
That if you sprayed it with mud or paint, or grease paint, makeup, then it could see people. And believe me, I didn't want to see its body. I can see that in my nightmares. But its face, I can't help wanting to see that pathetic little girl face.
I could do without it.
I'm afraid maybe I've fallen... But it's very beautiful.
Weirdo.
And when it's well made up, it's... But making it up, rubbing grease paint on a stone face that looks at you and smiles, and it makes sounds like a lost kitten yet. I can disguise the body in long dresses.
Yeah, you could.
She can't hear very well, and when she's hungry, I have to stay out of her way.
Makes sense.
I found out what she likes to eat, remember?
No,
sit still.
That doesn't sound good.
Sit still, do.
No.
Sit still or I'll have to shoot you.
I'm out of here.
I want you to meet my wife. Or rather, my wife wants to meet you. Mike. Mike! There she is. Come on in, dear.
I'm guessing she's going to eat the guy.
Deeply creepy.
The title of tonight's Quiet Please story is The Thing on the Fourble Board. It was written and directed by Willis Cooper and featured Ernest Chappell. And Dan Sutter played Billy Grunwald.
Sure.
Pat O'Malley was Ted. And Cecil Roy was also a member of the
Cecil
cast.
did a great job.
As usual, music for Quiet Please is played by
Cecil's
Albert
also a weirdo.
Sound by our good friend Albert April.
Actually, Albert did a good job.
But a word about next week, here is our writer-director, Willis Cooper.
Well, I'm reasonably sure that all the characters in tonight's stories were completely fictional. At least I, for one, hope so.
Me too.
Next week, the story is called Presto Changeo, I'm sure.
And so, until next week at the same time, I am quietly yours, Ernest Chappell.
Yeah, Ernest. Thanks.
This program was heard in Canada through the facilities of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. This is the Mutual
Ernest, are you going to
Broadcasting
come over when
System.
I have nightmares tonight?
Probably not. Well, there you have it, Sylvia. The Thing on the Fourble Board. Well,
All right.
I got to tell you, doing it this way, it wasn't as creepy for me this time.
Yeah, something about sitting listening to it with somebody else and kind of poking fun a little bit. I mean, not that we should poke a fun at somebody else's work, but you know.
Well, this is definitely something. I don't know how well this is going to be received. I don't know if people are going to enjoy it or if I'm going to get hate mail or if I'm going to get, wow, that was great, or somewhere in between. But I do think it was pretty fun to listen to it that way.
It was fun. Yeah, I hope people like it.
I think they will.
We did it in a spirit of fun.
Yeah, it's still one of my favorite old-time radio classics. And I can tell you why. It isn't so much the story. The story itself is preposterous. I mean, let's be honest. And number one, okay, you've seen how big the drill pipes are. How did that huge thing get up through there without getting a little more mangled than just losing a finger? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And there are some other little things too, but for the most part, in the 1940s, that's what you got to do, is you got to put yourself into that mindset and how important oil mining was in the 1940s. I mean, it was a completely different animal. Wildcatting was kind of a new frontier back in those days, even in the 40s.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a voodoo science, if you will. They really didn't have any clue as to what they were doing. They had ideas, but they didn't really know for sure what they were doing to the earth underneath the ground. They had no idea. So
yeah, and I found it interesting. I mean, we were making fun of it the whole time, but I found it interesting that the narrator explained the things that he needed to explain in a way that was fairly accessible. I mean, you could picture what he was talking about. It was just technical enough to make sense for the story, but it was not overly technical so that he completely lost his audience.
yeah, a few years ago, I don't know how many Halloweens ago now, it was quite a few, maybe 6 or 7 even. I did have someone contact me and said that it was really accurate as what he was describing and how they did that. And it was...
Sounds like it would be.
And it was extremely dangerous.
Oof.
They say the most dangerous thing in the world is to go lobster fishing or crab fishing in Alaska. During the wildcat days of oil drilling, I think it was probably even more than 100% mortality rate. I know it wasn't that bad, but it was pretty rough. It was a tough business. Wildcatting was pretty rough. So, and then you add to the fact that what an ingenious story. I've never seen anyone attempt to do anything like it. Have you ever heard a story like this?
No. It's really a little masterpiece.
It is. It is.
Something so terrifying and yet so technical and yet so interesting that it really is a marvelous little story.
Yeah.
From a craft standpoint.
Well, Sylvia, I want to thank you for joining me on this little endeavor. It was a lot of fun.
It was.
And I want to tell you, the listeners, if you really didn't like hearing our voices over that, I will have a link in the show to the Fourble Board so you can listen to it without our snarky comments.
That's the least you can do.
That is the least I can do. So I want to thank you again, Sylvia, for being here. Thank you. And I look forward to our next Ghost Stories with Sylvia, which is coming up pretty darn soon. And I don't know if we're going to be doing the Lizzie Borden thing, but why don't you tell us real quickly what's going on over at the blog and what's going on at the podcast?
Oh, well, I just put up a podcast episode, and we are exploring a cemetery under a full moon on Halloween Eve.
Oh, wow.
So that's just bunches of fun. And you need to listen closely because the spirits were very talkative that night.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I haven't listened to that one yet, so I will get to that soon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, one last thing. Tell us about the calendars.
Oh, yes, I have a few Days of the Dead calendars left. So if people want one to make every day spooky next year, they can contact me at sylviaschultz.wordpress.com. There's a contact me button at the top of the site, and drop me a line and we will get you set up with a calendar.
And I will have a link to that in the show notes as well. All right, Sylvia, thank you for joining me, and sleep well, will you?
I'll try.
That was episode number 563 and the third week of the month of Spooky 22. I want to thank Janice Brandable, Alma Reese, and of course, Sylvia Schultz for making this one possible. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you will find any of the links I mentioned and how to contact us. Do you want to help the show? The best thing you can do is to tell your friends all about it, and please leave reviews or feedback wherever you listen. Clicking that follow or like button makes us grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.